So in this case, I want to definitely, give it some spacing. So spacing is basically the rate with which the brush is sampling your image. And you can see that it's exactly the same image. And now, what I said before, one of the most important factors is that you realize I have a dark color selected now. So that means the brush is actually sampling the color of the darker parts of your texture. So everything that says I'm dark in your texture says I'm opaque, and everything that's white says I'm transparent. If you don't want that, you have to invert your texture, of course. And in this case, I like that. I like that it's like this, this more sharp corners and edges. And now we can go and give this brush some dynamics. So we click on this little button here and say activate shape dynamics, and here we have a little angle jitter that we can turn up that I really love, and that will turn each to a totally random direction. And this is something you can really play around with. So when you for example, let's say I get the angle a bit lower and just make it a little bit more different, maybe even just even more little. And now I want to have the angle controlled by the direction of which the brush is moving, and that's very cool. So I go to control here and select direction, and now when I draw, you can see it's actually following the direction in which the brush is moving initially. So not initially, but actually. So because there's also an option that's called initial direction, so that will keep the very first direction that you moved your brush in, like the very first move that you made with your stroke. So there are all kinds of interesting and intuitive options you can put in. Of course, for me, I would love to have 1,000 more options, but if you start, this is already kind of overwhelming. So you already have for, at least it was like this for me when I started. I was just I wanted to do everything at the same time in the best possible way. And of course, life teaches you that's not possible, never, and you still keep trying it. So it's it's something that you will get used to, and hopefully after a certain amount of time using these tools and options, they will appear smaller because you use them very often and you become more intuitive with them. I really want to make it modular, so you can really give your own already start expressing here. I don't want to give an advice on always use pen pressure, for example, on the size. So in this case, there are no rules, just play around and feel whatever feels intuitive and fits into your personal workflow. This is what it's all about. The custom brush creation is does it suit your very personal workflow? And that's pretty much it here. Now, I personally like to go crazy with the angles. I don't need any direction or something, so I can turn the direction off. I just want to have crazy angles, and then I want to have some type of a little less spacing, something like this. Then I go to my shape dynamics and undo the strokes here and give it some The roundness jitter is also interesting, like it squeezes the texture in a certain direction. So just play around with it and see what happens with each sample. So it's very easy to observe. So yeah, now I click on transfer, and what I like here is the flow control. So I turn the pen pressure off here, so it's fully opaque, and give it pen pressure on the flow. So there's a very interesting thing happening. I will press Control Delete here to fill the layer with white, with the background color. Like you will see that when I have pen pressure on the flow and draw lightly, very lightly, with not much pressure, and now do the same thing, instead of using the flow pressure, using the opacity pressure. You can see that the opacity doesn't really add unless I take the pen away and draw on it again. So really there's no like additional color being multiplied onto the canvas compared to using pen pressure on the flow. So that is something that is really right now it seems like a very minor, almost nerdy like side note, but the moment you draw you will like feel a tremendous difference when it comes to how textury certain objects feel, and how like the overall feel of the workflow, you really sense the difference. So it will help when you play around with these settings. And sometimes we even want to have the opacity jitter. I don't want to limit anyone here, but I think it helps to just look at it and have an eye on it. So that's basically it. That is the core mechanic of creating your own custom brush.